1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh shit.
I said starting this,
Well, hey, welcome to. There you go. Welcome to number 59 of From the Ground Up. A few things before we get started. It's a good start. A few things before we get started. As you guys probably know, we do have t-shirts for sale. Every t-shirt you buy goes to help support the podcast. Snakes and Beer t-shirt. All my brain's not working. I don't know what kind of Theportcitypythons t-shirt. I'm looking at you for answers like you're supposed to help me here. And Carpet Fest is going to be Southeast Carpet Fest. That is going to be May
4th and 5th.
May 4th and 5th at the Ivory Mon's house. If you from Ryan Sullivan of the Ivory Connection. So hit up Evan Browder. You can hit me up. You can hit Ryan up at Ivory Mon King on Facebook and get some details about that. It'll be a great time. It doesn't matter if you aren't into carpet pythons. Ryan doesn't even have carpet pythons. He has Gila monsters, or I take that back. He has beaded lizards. He has retics. He even has some king rat snakes. He has some crocodilians. He has cool stuff. So it'll be fun just to hang out and see all the animals he has to offer and talk to people about whether it be carpet pythons, snakes, whatever else we all have in common as we usually do. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about that. Oh, shit. Sorry, it was Southern. Evan just corrected me. Southern Carpet Fest.
What did you even say?
I said Southeast. Don't let Ian hear it. So now that's disaster's over. Today we have Tony Jerome of Selective Scale. No, Tony. He does carpondros, which if you don't know what a carpondro is, it is a carpet python and a green tree python, which has mixed feelings, I think, in the hobby, but we're going to get all into that. And if you haven't seen, he doesn't think it, but he has like the funniest social media posts that he says he doesn't like to talk, but his social media posts are top notch. And so check him out at Selective Scales, wherever on social media. So Tony, I saw, because I had to creep your Facebook to get the picture for the cover art. And I saw you had a picture of a snake where you couldn't have been, older than like 10 or so. So when did you first get into snakes?
10. So yeah, pretty good. Yeah, we took a trip to Austin, and back when Austin was the country, and
Didn't know ever was the country.
it was a lot different. And we stayed at a place, and there were water snakes, ribbon snakes, garter snakes, everything, everywhere. So my dad showed us his interest in that. No fear. So we collected a few and brought them back to Dallas. We lived in Dallas at the time, and set up a big old aquarium with water in it and what do you call it? Gravel. Put some frogs in there and watched them eat and everything, and it was good stuff. I was hooked at that point, and went out and collected. We later moved to Austin, and I every snake I found, I'd pick it up and look at it, figure out more about it. I learned what's good, what's bad. In my whole time there, I probably ran into 2 venomous snakes out of all the stuff I've done. Never saw a water moccasin or a cottonmouth. Saw 1 rattlesnake, 1 coral snake. But had a rat snake. Of course, this was before the internet, and carry is what it is. And being a stupid teenager, everything's thrown in the tank, together. Oh yeah. and you live and learn. And but I had a little bit of everything. A few lizards, a few alligator lizards, which was cool. Texas rat snakes, emery rat snakes, garter snakes, ribbon snakes, both kinds of water snakes that were down there, diamondback, blotched. Just good stuff. And then I was always happy with the snakes, always interested in them. But of course, as school and life takes over, that stuff started to dwindle. But then at 18, I got my first boa constrictor, bought a baby boa constrictor, and I had him for 14 years. So he was really all I had for that amount of time. So I did pretty good with him. Again, it's not perfect like the information you get today about keeping the heat right. You just put a light in and hope for the best. It's very unprofessional, but it is what it is. Learned a lot. Had him for 14 years, and then he finally went his own way. Then I had a child, and so snakes were out of the question. What was it, about 6-7 years ago, heard about this thing called NARBC. So they actually have reptile shows. Cool, we'll go to that. And a guy named Sean Christian was there. I saw my first jungle carpet python there. I'd seen him before in books, but really didn't stick in my mind. But when I saw that, I went, "Oh, that yellow and black it's beautiful." And he showed me. He was very informative and everything, and he had several out there that looked really good. And my wife and I were talking about it. And, "You want to get another snake?" "Yeah, I do." He said, "Well, come by the house sometime, and I got a lot more you can look at." So I went by there, and he hooked me up with my first carpet python, Layla, who I still have today. She's 6 years old. And
that's that big female that just
she laid her third clutch, so they're in the incubator right now. Have hopefully 17 good eggs that we'll see what 17 eggs with veins at this point. Chances are not all of them will go, because that's just the way they are. They still have a pretty good percentage of hatching.
I'm trying so hard not to ask more questions about the eggs, but we're gonna get to that.
Okay, yeah, please do. So that's where I'm at. I can't even remember how the Apodora got in, but somehow I can't remember if I saw it on the internet or what, and some guy had a little baby one on his hand for sale. I'm like, Missy's my wife, and we decided to get him because he was going to be a big snake, but not a huge snake like a berm or a retic.
And if people don't know Apodoras,
it's a Papuan python. It looks similar in coloration to an Australian olive python, except they have I'm not that familiar with the Australian, but they have a band on the lower portion of their body that tends to change colors somewhat. It'll go from yellow to brown to green. Some I've even heard say white, but I haven't seen that in him. Don't know if it's hormonal, temperature, or whatever. It just happens. I'll take him outside, and it'll go from green to brown, and it's just cool. But yeah, they get big, upwards probably of 16 feet, but stay in the 50-pound range, which for an old fart like me, that's more manageable. I don't need 200 pounds hanging on me. So yeah, we got him, and then I was kind of in the let's get one of everything. I like that, and my wife goes, let's concentrate on one thing and do it well. And so I do still have some pets. I got a bull snake and the Papuan, which are pets, but we decided on the carpets and the green tree pythons. And since
where did the green trees?
The green tree, I got it actually Lone Star show, and it was sold to me as a captive bred. I don't know if that's factual or not, but I'm not going to go a whole lot further than that into it.
It worked out.
It worked out really well. I had to spend some vet dollars on him to make him eat well and clean him up a little bit. But yeah, and that was just a walk by. Woo, this is cool. Took him out. He didn't chew me or anything. So that, we decided to get him. The price was reasonable. So for 3 years, they just grew up and they hang out together and whatever. Layla was sold to me as a probable female, so I wasn't sure on her. The green tree was a male. So, and one time I had them together, and they showed interest, and I went, "Oh."
So did you know the outcome?
Not
what a
really.
Carpondra was really?
Not really. Bill Stiegel and Evan mentored me big time on the whole initial process of getting this going. And of course, like you said, there are some haters. There's a lot of haters, but there's a lot of things I don't like. So so be it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I put them together. Didn't know anything about breeding or incubating or anything. So like I said, Bill and Evan kind of mentored me through getting that going. got me an incubator wine cooler fridge incubator, and the first one worked, and they turned out looking just what I think really cool. They hatch black and white, almost pure black and white. And on these jungle mixes anyway, they tend to get more yellow as they age. Some more yellow, some stay a little more cream color, but they also get a black speckling. It's not really a tipping of the scales. It's just it gets more black scales in the white areas.
It's
a distinctive look. Right. I wish they wouldn't do that, but they do.
It's like, it's kind of dirtying, but it's not the dirtying that you're used to. And
it's not browning. It's actually, it's the same color as the other black scales.
Yeah.
I have two that have not gone that route, but it seems more the rule than exception that that's going to happen on these 50/50s anyway. This year, hopefully I'm trying for the 75s. I got one of my 50/50s will be 3.5 years old, almost 4, and she's already 1,000 grams. So hopefully she'll be by December 15, 16 or something like that. And might introduce daddy to her just to see what happens.
So we're talking 75% jungle at this.
No, 75% green tree.
Okay.
There are 75% jungles, and a lot of people do them, and they are more difficult to tell from a regular jungle. I'm sure there are some markers that you can, and I'm not saying I'm not going to do it. I'm just saying I don't like them as much. I might do that just to prove out some of my males, because typically the males are sterile. I mean, that is a theory. Some people say they've had luck with it. I want to see if I have luck with it.
But so you're saying the 75% jungles are just too close
to a jungle to where, I mean, if you sell it to somebody and you represent it well, but then they decide to sell it and they don't represent it well, I don't want to be the guy to propagate that.
Right.
I want, the 50/50s are very distinct. Green trees are very distinct. I'm sure there's some 75% jungles that are very distinct. Haven't seen that many of them. So a little more research needs to be done.
Right. And I'm the first guy to say that I don't like the idea of hybrids because it muddies the waters. But like you said, I mean, I think that's the responsible thing. 75% you can barely tell, but I mean, I can tell every one of your 50/50s is a Carpondro. There's just some type of quality about them. Yeah,
they look different. I mean, the body shape, the mannerisms, it's 50/50. It's not one or the other. And the head scalation is different too. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's a mix between the green tree and the jungle.
Right.
As far as I don't know the names of the scales, so I can't get scientific on that.
The scale counts and everything.
Is there a difference between which one, male or female, is the GTP or the jungle?
And this is just my opinion. Green trees are generally smaller than carpet pythons. So scientifically, if the egg size is determined by the female, probably it wouldn't make a difference. If the egg size is determined by both parents, then it could really be detrimental to a green tree python, in my opinion. Because normal green tree pythons hatch out, 12 grams maybe?
Right.
Mine are hatching out at 25. So, No. But if the egg size is determined by the female, then it wouldn't make a difference.
Right.
I'm not willing to sacrifice my female.
Are you going to try? Who's going to be the one to try it?
No, not me.
Plus, I mean, just in general, you want a pregnant carpet python is much easier to deal with than a pregnant chondro, correct?
I have not had a pregnant chondro yet. I've heard the best way to kill a chondro is to breed it. So I'm working hard and long to build these guys up to age where I can make some green tree pythons. Mm-hmm. That's a 4 to 5 year, not a 3-year ordeal. And said, I'm old. I can only do this so many times.
So you have, so you want to put generally the female jungle, and then the male is going to be green tree python. Yes. And how do you determine that, is there some type of compatibility issue or? I mean, you
that's
just had
also
two and it just worked.
Yes, that is also unknown because some people will put them together and they are always making slugs. They're always infertile, and there might be some compatibility issue there.
Or maybe
whether-
northern chondro species,
Whether it's
southern-
locality or whatever. I mean, oh, we get real technical here. Different snake things are different. That's the scientific term, but maybe some of them aren't compatible. I don't know.
Right.
Like I said, yeah, but I winged it.
Yeah.
Pretty lucky then.
Yeah, I know this pair works. It's worked for 3 times, and now here this year I can start seeing if other things work.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones are of age enough.
So what are you expecting out of the clutch that just dropped? And then where does it go once you make the 75s? How do you continue? Do you think that they're going to be breedable?
I think they are. I mean, I'm going to breed the sire back to its daughter to try for the 75s if everything looks good this year. Right now with the clutch I have now, I think I have 17 good eggs. Like I said, that time will tell. 17 are showing veins, but usually a couple dud out before then. But it's generally a pretty good hatch rate. And I won't keep any more of these. I have enough. And another thing about them with the green tree genetics in them, I'm afraid to sex them. So I'm just now discovering what my 2-year-olds are by their sheds. I mean,
so you were holding a bunch back,
and they're all males. So I know I have one female. The one that's questionable is in shed now, so I should know in a few days. But yeah, I have a bunch of males.
And they're shedding sperm plugs like a green tree would.
Yes. I mean, it's very definitive. I sent that picture that time.
Right.
Yeah, it's whether they're fertile, don't know. That's something I've got to figure out how I want to prove out, because I have one that I really would like to use in another tater.
So it's seen eggs, so it's kind of it would be more of a carpet python incubation rather than, I mean, green tree people you hear lots.
I'm not varying the temperature. I have a just a regular incubator, and the probe is in the box in the middle of the egg pile, and it's at 87.5. So the thermostat's normal keeping it there. So when the eggs start heating up, the thermostat will still keep them at that. I don't know if that's right or wrong. Like I said, this is just what I've done, and I've had pretty good luck with it. So
okay, I know we got into talking about eggs, but I have one question. I don't know if it's technically backtracking, but obviously you only can look to your collection, but if you had endless green trees to choose from, what characteristics are you looking for in the green trees of what you want to put to the carpets?
I personally like the blue stripes on the back, and any blue. I mean, a full blue one would be neat. I don't know if that would translate into the carpondros or not, because like I said, I no, not right now. It isn't. I mean, right now they're black and a greenish shade of yellow, and some of them are really yellow, but some of them still have that green hint to them. But I don't. As far as green tree pythons are concerned, I like the blue ones.
But at the end of the day, it's not a huge factor once you put them together, because it's just not showing up that much.
I can't answer that, because like I said, I've only had these two together, and they're quite similar, the ones that they're producing.
Now, do you have any interest? Obviously, you're using jungles. Do you have any interest in coastals and breadlie and any other Morelia?
I really don't. I mean, I have one caramel jag female that I haven't decided if I want to do anything with her or not.
What's better than a hybrid, a jag-tarded hybrid? You might as well go full.
Well, I really like the yellow and black. That's me personally, and it seems to be other people seem to like it too. So that's right now. That's what I'm sticking with. I don't have cage space to branch out a whole bunch.
Right. And now, I mean, there's some people that don't even think that they should be in the same genus. So the fact that you're successful putting them together should say that they're at least pretty closely related.
Seems to be. But
It works.
people are putting pythons together from different
Africa
countries, and
different
it's
continents.
still working. And
Right.
I'm a hypocrite when it comes to some of this stuff. I like what I'm seriously. I like what I do, but I don't like what some of the other people do.
Hybrid doesn't mean you like all hybrids.
Yeah,
across the board.
but I don't fault anybody for doing it either. You know,
But why do hybrids look so much better? They all look amazing. I don't love them, but they all look.
I don't know that all of them
They
do,
just-
but I've seen some pretty ugly ones. But maybe just the pretty ones get on the market or
You know,
whatever. But
what sucks is the Bolins to whatever.
see, I couldn't do that with good conscience. I mean,
Right.
not a real, high class rare snake like that. That I don't feel comfortable with
or
that.
the Woma ball, the wall.
Like I said, you can do what you want. That's not
an
something I would do.
interesting- That one's
And the
interesting.
reason I say that is because a dream snake of mine would be a Bolin's. I don't think I'll ever have one, but if I had a chance, yes, I would. And no, I would not make hybrids with it.
Well, at least you're saying that in
Yeah.
public, so
Yeah,
people
yeah, it's
don't
on the
burn
record.
you at the
It's on
stake.
the record.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the whole thing with breeding snakes is that I don't want to breed snakes to make snakes that are uglier than their parents, right?
Right.
Like you're getting something, you're putting a jungle with a green tree python, and you're getting something that almost looks radioactive half the time.
That's what I'm trying to. I'm not. I mean, I respect all the people that do purity and lineage and all that sort of stuff. I utmost respect for that. That's what they want to do. I'm not breeding for zoos. I'm not breeding to return to the wild. I'm trying to paint a pretty picture for somebody who wants one. That's what. And they're unique. And about the size and the health so far is you're introducing a whole new genetics. It's not. I mean, all the carpet pythons. The jungles are basically descended from the few that were imported.
Right.
To the best of my understanding.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of I think just introducing that new stuff. The guys that I have seem to be very healthy. I said they're only 3 years old, so time will tell. I know some hybrids of different snakes that they went 9 years and then they kick off at 9 years. I think the Carpondros have been around a little longer. I don't personally know the people that have had them that long. But yeah,
the first one.
I don't know.
Eugene Bassett, I thought, did the first one. That's the
Yeah.
first one that I've ever heard of, and that's the first one that I felt advertised a Carpondro.
Yeah.
But then again, you never know because there's people, out there doing things that we never know.
Yeah.
There's people with so many cool snakes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Amazing collections that don't necessarily do what we do and don't
Yeah.
have social media
Yeah.
presence and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
And John Martin, he's made some 75s that are they're cool. I mean, the 75% green tree python and the pattern or the coloration in those is so variable. Just from the one, I assume it was one clutch that he had. Some are like a steel gun blue gray throughout. Bill Stiegel has one of those. It's really cool. And some are greenish with still some little patterning circles and stuff like that on there. But they still don't look like a green tree python.
Mhm.
They're really cool. I hope that I hear they're a little more susceptible to fertility issues at the 75% level.
And that's male and female.
I'll tell you in a few years.
Playing game.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, now, I mean, everyone's interested. Is it more at the 50-50 level? Are you more green tree? Like the characteristics, like how do they meld together? So really I want to start out at the bottom level. We talked about the eggs, but you said your babies are coming out at 25 grams. I'm not sure how big an average jungle carpet baby would
It's
be.
about that.
Okay. So
I think it's at 23. I had one come out at 12. I named him Runt. I mean, he was half the size, and I was going, this is weird. And he was also a lot more red as a baby, and I'm going, this is. He looks just like the others now, so
Like
it doesn't make a difference. But I
red as a baby?
that I doubt it. I don't know, but I don't think so. But he ate 3 days after the egg, and other than shedding, hasn't missed a week in 2.5 years. I mean, he's the same size as everybody else at this point. So yeah, I mean, it's just weird.
Yeah, I mean that's also the next question is, are these animals starting to feed like carpet pythons, or are they trickier like green trees?
My first year, learning year, was I had some that ate pretty well, and some that Bill helped him with. He took, I think, 3 to his house and tried to get them going, and that didn't work. And I brought them back, and I had one, the very first one I hatched, named it Uno, and he just wouldn't eat it all. And I said, Evan, you can have this snake if you want it. You know, this is the deal. You know, if it works, it works.
Your first one?
Yeah, he took it home. Ate like 5 minutes. Congratulations.
Oh,
bud.
so that's why Evan mentioned something about, don't you know that they just need a quick car ride?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
And,
that's
and
what he
Bill
was
was saying that too.
referring to.
Yeah, they sometimes, who knows what the deal is, if it's just the motion or what, rocking a baby to sleep maybe. I know. Yeah, but it's also, I've had some that hasn't worked on. You know, it's a crapshoot.
Right.
So the second clutch, like I said, Runt was actually had his head down off the perch 3 days out of the egg. You know, I was wait after the first shed, which is 7 days, maybe 10 days on some of them. And I said, I'm going to try it. And I did. And he just snatched it. So I went, okay, I'm going to try the rest. And I had a really good success rate with my second clutch. Just this one, yeah, 2-3 days in, I'm going to offer. If they don't take it, no big deal. If they do, big step, big hurdle.
And I guess you mentioned it a little bit, but people are wondering, I mean, jungle carpets will sometimes as babies perch, but how often are these things terrestrial, perching, and then throughout the life cycle? I mean, you have some animals that are getting up there now. So
I have my female, who is she just turned 3. She's in her hide all the time. Sometimes I see her out at night, but
so she's gone full jungle carpet.
Pretty much. All the others are pretty much on their perch all the time.
These bastards are just doing whatever they want.
Yeah, they do.
It's 50-50.
It's like a new show every day.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just, it's hard to delineate, like, because they are literally both animals as far as. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I know.
What?
I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No.
It's crazy.
Really? Okay.
I know. What I'm trying to think what other, I mean, size is also a question.
I have varying sizes. I have one, you know him, Sir Testicles. He's not.
You have great names.
Yeah, he's not a great eater. The name is because he has cock and balls on his head, so it's just what it is. But
Great names. Your names for your snakes are great.
But he's always been one. He was a real slow starter, and he's always been one to only eat every other week or so. And he's, I think, the only one that went off feed this whole winter. He just stopped, and he's a mouser, and he's smaller than my 2016s. He's a 2015, and he's smaller than my 2016s. But he seems healthy. I keep, people have offered to buy him. I said, I don't know that there's not something wrong inside, and that's just that whole hybrid question. You just don't know. And I love them. I'm not going to sell them to anybody anyway, but just because of that, because I could not in good conscience say that there's something going on inside because of that. The other ones, my male and female from 2015, they're a good 5.5 feet long. I mean, they're big, in my opinion, for a 3-year-old snake.
So you're seeing that, I mean, your jungle female has to be a good 7 feet or so.
She's, I would say 6.5. Yeah, 6.5, 7, and she's about 4,000 grams at last weight. Yeah.
So I mean, that's a pretty big girl.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how big a female green tree would top out at.
That I don't know because I haven't raised one up yet, but that depends on locality too. I mean, I've heard some of the BX get 6, maybe 7 feet, but weight wise, I don't know. So
we're kind of in the same area lengthwise, but maybe more heavy body.
Yeah. My Jaipura, who's the male, he's 550 grams and he's probably 8 years old. So he's not getting a lot bigger.
So are you seeing that they are have a body structure of a carpet or of a green tree? Or somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle. They have that. I mean, to me, carpets have a kind of an oval shape to them anyway. Now, Layla might be different because she's had 3 clutches. She's kind of spread, but these guys have kind of an oval shape to them, which is to me is kind of green tree-ish, but it's there in the carpet too. So no, I don't know.
Yeah, I remember you. Well, it's so hard because they're so in the middle-ish / like.
I know their
could be a
tail is to me is definitely a jungle tail. I mean, you know how fragile a green tree tail is because it does the whole wormy thing. And I got one that does the tail wag thing, and he's terrible at it. He sucks. I mean, it's like a bullwhip out there just going around. There's no finesse or anything to it. I'll sit down at the computer and be looking at him, and he's staring at me, just whapping that thing around like.
And
I feel like they look cheap. Green. I don't know.
It's very hard because I had one, because I've seen a lot of Carpondros around, and I didn't notice how yours in particular are straight to jungles, and how they're like super enhanced jungles. They're to the point where they're not jungles, but they're definitely not green trees, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, this is like my dream jungle carpet.
Yeah.
But it's a Carpondro.
Yeah. I have the one that doesn't have any of the tipping in it yet. I'm going to call it tipping because I have no better word for it. But
just the tip.
You just okay. Scaling, the darkened scales in there, and people constantly ask me, "Is that a jag? Is that a what is that?" And I go, "No, it's a Carpondro."
I mean, it definitely does. Especially seems to on the head and stuff like that kind of mess with pattern. I mean,
yeah, they got a funky pattern on their heads, I think. And at least my pairing, they're somewhat similar. I'd like to see more of other people's, and I don't get to see that many just on Facebook, and the 50/50s. I've seen some IJs that come out red and white as babies. I'd like to see how they turn out. I haven't seen them. Seen the baby pictures. I haven't seen the progression pictures.
Sometimes there's a reason for that.
Well, there might be. I know. I'm pretty sure that Bill has one that is IJ, and it's quite yellow too. Really? It's got a pretty bright yellow on it too. It's got a little more white to the belly, but it's a big girl. It's a big girl.
So is there any reason why you wouldn't just, those super mutts out there as far as carpets goes, those Bredley, jungle, jag, whatever the hell's, do you think just throw that to a green tree and you think it would throw all separate things, or like, because it seems like there's such a range, because from an outsider seeing it, I had a different idea of Carpondros than when I went to your place.
Yeah.
Because they all seemed uniform, had a certain look to them.
Yeah.
But
I'd be curious to see what a diamond looked like, what a brittle eye looked like. Don't have those, so I'm not going to do it. If somebody else wanted to, I'd be happy to see them. But I'd be, are they all going to look similar once they mature and go through their color change or whatever? And I don't know how long they're going to keep color changing. I mean, sometimes it seems like the yellow keeps getting more and more intense, or I don't know. This is a long experiment for me.
Right. Did you see the change more intense than a regular jungle, or was it pretty similar?
What I never raised a baby jungle. I mean, from brown and black, they already pretty much had some yellow in them. So I don't know. I think it's a pretty drastic change myself, at least in my clutches. Like I said, I can't speak for what other people are seeing, but going from white and black to yellow and black as compared to brown and black to yellow and black.
Because I mean, for people that don't know, jungles, every shed they get a little bit more yellow, hopefully a little bit more black.
Yeah, this seems to me it was kind of gradual. I mean,
because but a green tree can over one shed.
Oh man, yeah, I have one that did it in a matter of 2 weeks, and others that are going months. I mean, when I bought him, he was, I think, probably 6 weeks old, and he was starting his change, and he's over a year old now. And he's still changing.
Okay. Austin said, if you did a GTP to a breadlie, would you call it a Christmas tree? I don't get the
I
Christmas
guess
part.
the red and green.
Oh, okay.
You guys,
You call whatever you want.
you guys
He's saying with the name be Christmas tree.
that would be up to whoever.
I
produced
guess
it.
so. I think it'd still be a Carpondro.
Yeah, I wonder what would happen. Just some of the the bigger species. I mean, jungles seem pretty comparable in comparison to, say, some of the larger coastals and stuff like that, or even breadlie.
Yeah.
In size to a green tree python.
I zoned on you. What was the question? I'm still
No,
thinking Christmas
I
tree.
Yeah, Austin said the red and green. Make it, 'cause the green
Yeah.
is the green tree.
Don't worry, I understand you, Austin.
I tend to think it would probably start out as a white and red baby like some of those IJs do, but what it would turn out to be, I don't know. Same thing with a coastal.
Mhm.
I wouldn't. This is just me personally. I would not want a brown and black Carpondro. I favor the yellow. That's me. I mean,
Right.
so I'm not probably not gonna do that. Do have a caramel jag that's
You never
in the
know
wings.
what happens in the future. So do you keep them more of a
This is
like
going to
a
get me in
Charmander,
trouble because I
more
keep
like
all
a
my
Jabba?
snakes the same.
Well, you're looking at someone who also keeps everything,
Yeah.
and I have colubrids, I have
Yeah.
carpets, everything set 85 or 86.
Yeah. Well, now my colubrids, I don't have any temp in there at all. They just have the room temp.
Mhm.
I have it in there that's just not ever turned on. The room gets down to 76 in the winter and 67 in the winter and 78 in the summer. So they make it out here in a lot worse conditions than that.
Right.
I'm not worried about them. Everybody else, I keep hotspot. I got radiant heat panels, and they're set at about 85 or 86, depending on what layer they are in the cage, because the ones in the middle hold the heat better. So the ones on the sides, they cool off faster. So I have to usually bump them a degree or two to keep them at 85.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they're 85-ish. I let it drop usually to 80, 78, 75, just depending on what mood I'm in
Mhm.
at night. They're on paper or paper towels. I have different sized water bowls. I was running into some respiratory issues with my carpets, and I think it's because my humidity was too high. It was a suggestion made, and I think I've worked it out, and I just changed the size of the water bowls to vary the humidity in the cage. I got some compressed polystyrene, I think is what it's called, real lightweight cages, and they hold the humidity really, really well. So if you have too big a water bowl, they actually weep inside there. So
Really?
so I've had to control that.
Mhm.
But other than that, I don't mist. I do have a mister, and occasionally if I'll throw it in there and squirt the green tree python just to see what it does, and they all seem to be drinking well, so I'm not worried about that. Couldn't tell you exactly what the humidity is. It's probably around 70%, something like that, maybe 60.
Mhm.
Of course, that varies between winter and summer too. But so I'm not. I like naturalistic enclosures, but then they just poop on everything, and it's a pain to
Right.
clean it. So with the time that I have, I do paper towels, and I check twice daily. Check in the morning and evening, clean them, disinfect them if they've made a mess, and new paper, and there we go. Simple.
Yeah. I mean, my whole thing, if I had naturalistic enclosures, and imagine if anyone ever got mites for which reason, I wouldn't know
That'd be a
how
nightmare.
the hell to get rid of
That'd
them.
be a nightmare.
Yeah. So that's really my concern on that side.
Yeah.
But minimalistic for the pythons, especially carpet pythons.
I tried it once with the green tree python, but I had the coconut fiber in the bottom and put some plants in there and stuff. And of course, I didn't know anything about the naturalistic stuff. It just was pretty and green. But it got the springtails and stuff in there, which I wasn't really sure what those were. They were invaders in my book, so they had to go. So yeah, I just went back to keep it simple, stupid.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess you weren't off the bat one of the keep your carpet pythons like python hot. Like it used to be like everyone kept their animals at like 90 degrees or even
No,
things like ball
I think I
pythons.
pretty much I got the complete carpet python book, and I sit and read it to the snakes and tell my snakes one day we'll be friends with Nick Mutton. You know? But you know, it had a lot of good information in there and suggestions, and I've followed that as far as the incubating and haven't had any problems. So I'm sticking with it.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, even a green tree python you could keep in that range and probably be good. A jumbo, you keep in
they're
that range
85.
probably be good.
Yeah, and actually, all but one of my green tree pythons spend most of their time on the cold side.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have you know, the 85 underneath the heat panel, and they've picked their spot over there, and they stay there, and they come down at night and wander around, but they always go back to that one place that they like.
Mm-hmm.
So I set my temperature pretty much by the snake.
Right.
If he's spending all his time under the heat, I bump it up. If he's spending all his time in the cold, you know, except for summertime, you know, lower it down a little bit. Did I say that right? I think so.
So we went to your place and saw your collection, and there's a few things that strike us that are different from what you do than most people. Is there are display enclosures all white and all have like LED lights on them, all uniform across both walls, and everything looks amazing and perfect. And B is that you really take time to like talk to, do whatever you want to the snakes.
Yes, I talk to my snakes.
So explain us a little bit on the way you keep your room, and if that's just your own neuroses. Because it looks beautiful.
I don't know what it is, because my bedroom does not look like that. My dresser does not look like that. No, Jason Miller makes these cages, JPM Reptilia, and I met him, became friends with him, and the first cages I bought, well, actually I started out with Exoterra cages and had real problems keeping the heat up and stuff like that. So I met Jason and bought a big 6-foot cage for my Papuan, and didn't look back. I mean, they're stacked. One thing is they're stackable. So if you have a glass cage here and a fish tank here and whatever, it's not as space efficient. And I do not. It's a 10 by 12 room that I'm trying to pack all this stuff in, and all the young'uns are growing up. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with having to get bigger caging for them. But yeah, I don't know. I like it all to look the same. Just for ease of cleaning. You know, I got some lights that are kind of yellowish and some are white, and it kind of drives me nuts, but I'm not buying an all new set. But they really show off the snake to me. I mean, when they're underneath that LED light, that's I think it's the cool lights that are whiter, and the warmer lights are yellow.
Yeah, like you have those cool daylight kind of.
Yeah, and it to me it really makes the yellows glow, you know. So I like that.
And now you had a few grow outs and stuff. Were those 4 feet cages or 3 feet?
The small cages.
Yeah. So one wall was 3 feet.
Yeah, one wall is 3 by 2 by 12s, and some are 16s. And
those were animals about 2 years.
Yeah,
to 2 years.
Yeah, and the other wall they're 1 by 2 by 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that they stay in there until they're big enough to move up. I just moved 2 over, but like I said, I need to figure out where to put some big cages.
Right.
Don't you have an extra bedroom?
Don't tell Missy.
I shouldn't say that, because I would be pissed if he did something like that. But there is another
yes,
room.
I do, and it will probably not be used for that.
Well, you're gonna have a lot of babies.
I'm going to get them all established, and I told her unless I can determine specifically that one's a female or one comes out extremely unique, they're all going to be for sale once they're established.
You know you're gonna love a couple of
them. I love them all. That's why I'm real particular about who they go to. I like
a female.
Yeah, I do. I need to. like to, have conversations with the people they go to and get to know them. And I don't want to sell to a flipper.
Mhm.
And I do understand circumstances come up, but I trust that they send them on to good homes too, and although I shouldn't have that emotional attachment to everything I do. So that's a flaw.
You can afford to. You're not doing this as a full-time
No.
job.
No, it is definitely not paying for itself.
Right.
Definitely. Well, last year I didn't have anything. So
So that female took a year off, actually.
I'd put them together, and she started to have a sniffle. So I immediately separated them and took her to the vet, and it ended up being nothing, but I didn't think it would end up being too late. So yeah.
For you, that's your sign of like, yeah, maybe she just needs a little bit of rest.
Well, I thought she was coming down with an RI, and I, of course, didn't want to put her through that if she was going to be in a weakened
It's only going to
state anyway. Oh yeah. So, yep. Snakes first, fun stuff second.
Right. And I mean, that female is invaluable to, reproducing and giving you more animals to play with.
And actually, I was being questioned about maternal incubation, which that's something I would like to try. Again, I'm learning every step of the way as I go. I didn't feed her right leading into it, so I felt she probably wouldn't be strong enough to go through a whole nother 60 days or whatever of incubation. I was under the impression that you took them off feed, to cool them down, and then that was it. You're supposed to start feeding them again until they refuse. So she went 2 months without feed and laid, and I just didn't want to go. And I know there's some people out there that are maternal incubating, and they will leave the eggs and actually feed. So again, these are things that I didn't have the answer to these questions, and I wasn't willing to risk it this time. And I'm really glad, because one of the eggs went bad, and I walked in the room and it smelled like death in there. It was bad. So I had to go, and if that was in her cage, I couldn't do anything with it. Yeah. So I was able to, gently separate it off and throw it away. But yeah, I think it went bad and must have perforated, because we were looking for dead mice and poop everywhere. And nope.
Do you think that if you did maternally incubate, you'd have to give her a year off? Is that your fear, or it would just take too much out of her?
I've been told that well, it's probably advisable. I guess it just depends on how fast they recover. I mean, she's a chow hound now. She'd eat my face if I let her. I mean, every time I go in and pop a lock on any cage, she's right there looking at it, and I'm afraid to change her water bowl. I mean, she's good. She doesn't bite. You might have seen a video of me taking the eggs out, and she talked a lot, but didn't really offer any aggravation, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Which most of my guys are like that. I mean, if I get bit, it's my fault purely. I mean, they're all very food motivated. And if I pop the lock on one cage, they're all right there waiting for it. So if I were to swing that door down and throw my hand in there, grab a water bowl, chances are I get bit. But I think I know them. I'd like to think that I know them. And I just approach them open hand under the chin. They give a few sniff and see how bad I smell and try to run away, pretty for the most part.
It's hard to say, like, as far as handling, are they, more carpet, more green tree, because quite frankly, both are very food motivated. So I'm guessing you're getting a lot of more animals that are food motivated, and
but they can distinguish between you and food. I mean, if you just had taken the rats out of the freezer and were handling them and stuff, and then stuck your hand in there might be an accident. But if it's Saturday, which they tend to know weekend days are seem to know that that's feeding day. Like I said, I popped the lock on one, and all of them on one bank are at the front of the cage. But if I drop the door, and drop the drawers, and just give them a minute to let the air go on, and then slowly reach in and grab their water bowl. One of the green tree pythons is just, as soon as I open the door, she lunges. She lunges, and I reach in and she lunges. But if I keep my distance and just slowly go towards the water bowl, she eventually, and if I even bring my hand up under her, she goes and tries to hide, which gives me a little bit of a self-conscience. But
what did Evan ask? I thought you were paying.
Oh, I don't think Evan asked a question. No, he didn't. Oh. They're talking amongst themselves.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So as far as other snakes that you have, of
Yeah.
course. So what the other big project, or not even project, just animal that you have is your poplin, as you mentioned before. So explain to us a little bit how you got your poplin and kind of how poplins work as far as in the hobby, how you can acquire one. Are they captive born? What's going on?
I don't know. Next. So I don't really remember what got me interested in them. I think the guy's name was Mark Cole or Mike. I think Mark Cole is over in Florida that had and this was an import fresh hatchling out of Indonesia. So he was probably 6 weeks old when I got him, and never looked back. I mean, he's a great snake. I think some people are having luck breeding them. I know over in Europe they are, and I think there's a couple guys in the U.S., but they don't have a big Facebook presence. So sorry, I'm addicted to Facebook, but so I don't know much about what they're doing or how they're getting it going. But I think like Boland's, they have a problem getting good viable eggs out of them. I understand their incubation time is really long, maybe 100 days or more. I'm not really sure what the number is. And they like to eat each other. So herein lies a big problem with putting them together. Mine as a pet, I would hate to have a female and put it in there and lose one of them. That especially from what I understand, they don't reach maturity till 7, 8 years old. So you got a huge time investment there, and then to have an accident like that, I'm pretty good with keeping one pet.
In the state of our hobby, how many people keep an animal for 7 years or 8 years?
I'm pretty sure Austin will. He's got a good thing going. There's a couple people, Eric Morelli Pythons. Yeah, he just bought. I don't know if he bought a pair. He just got one, but I heard him talking about it. So there more and more people are getting as youngsters, but it's going to be a while before they're ready. A good friend of mine, John Beck, he has a male and a female. The male is big. He's ready to go. The female is probably got a couple years to go. Possibly if I could find a female that was already of breeding age, I'd give it a try. But I just don't feel I have the time or the space to raise up a whole 8 to 10 years, whatever.
You're working with a 14-year-old animal at that point, or
and I'm gonna be 70 years old, and trying to handle a 50-pound monster. They're very, very strong too, very strong. He bit me once as a mistake. I had caught a water snake and it musked me. And me and my infinite scientific mind of genius here said, that must be some kind of deterrent. Let's see what he does. And it didn't take long to figure out it wasn't a deterrent. He was on me and wrapped in a split second. So it was an attraction to him. But I have to be careful when I feed him because he will come out, but he's easily manageable.
So they're certainly snake eaters in the wild.
Yes, I understand they eat pretty much whatever goes in front of them. Yeah.
So what are you feeding him now?
I'm feeding him chicken legs regularly and a rat as supplement occasionally, because generally when he eats a rat, he blows up all over the place. It's not pleasant. The chicken legs I've had really good luck with. I don't know if there's some validity for them having the gut fauna from a full animal, but you got the bone, you got the meat, you got the tendons, all that sort of stuff in a chicken leg. If they need the other organs and stuff, that's why I do that. I don't know the answer to the question, so I just maybe every third or fourth feeding I do that. And
well, chicken's much leaner than say a rat.
And he'll eat a pound and a half of chicken legs at a sitting. And they're real easy. If I get the small end of the leg in them, I can just take the tongs and push them right in.
You can chain them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how often with an animal that large?
When I feed him the big meal like that, I do it once a month. If I feed him a rat, which is more like probably 300, it's a jumbo rat, about 350 grams, I'll go every 2 or 3 weeks maybe.
Okay. And do you see any advantage to the chicken legs, or was that a convenience thing?
Convenience, easier cleanup.
Right.
Papuans pee a lot. I mean, almost daily. So it's like a colibrid on those, in my opinion. I had him out the other day. I was making a joke about him peeing on the floor because every time I take him out, he pees. And you can't keep clean paper in there. You just got to say, okay, dude, every 2 or 3 days you're getting new paper. I'm not doing it every 2 or 3 times a day. But
that being said, do they drink a lot?
yes, they do. Or
you can see
mine does. Again, I can't speak for everybody.
Right.
I'm just going on my experience. He does seem to like to drink. So.
And you think 6 foot cage, regular hide, regular stuff.
I have a big Tupperware type Rubbermaid tote that I cut the side out, and he fits in that fine. And it's 6 foot by 2 feet deep by 16 inches tall. And I mean, he can spread out back and forth on it, but most of the time he's curled up on one side. So, and again, he's not that big. If he's maybe not even that big.
It's big to me.
So you
I'm
can't
sure he
see,
is,
but Tony was holding his hands up.
Oh, you
like
couldn't. I'm sorry.
softball
Like
size.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was below the screen.
No, you're right. But yeah, so softball size. And how long is your animal?
He's probably closer to 11 feet, maybe 12. Yeah.
And you think he's full grown at this point, or
no? I've been told they can get about 16.
Okay.
So I'm slowing down. I've and something else I've learned about feeding. I was doing the 1 a week feeding on everybody.
Right.
So I've gone to feeding them once a week till they're a year old, and then going every 2 weeks, and I'm pretty good. I don't see any difference in it other than clean up and food cost is less. They still seem happy, healthy, and they're always hungry when it's food time.
Right. I mean,
they're always hungry. Period.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They would always eat for the most part. Yeah.
So I know that Austin has talked to us about the different variants in feeding, but have you talked to other Papuan keepers? Are there really any other Papuan keepers?
The two people I know right now are Austin and John Beck. And I don't know how much Austin has done, but like I said, I've winged it this long. I think John has some friends that have some overseas in Indonesia, so he has some good advice on that. But they all seem big, happy, healthy, good eaters and everything. So we're doing something right as far as breeding goes. Don't know. Austin, I think, is going to be the one to figure that one out.
So why do you think it never really caught on? When we have availability of the animals, we see them imported, stuff like that. And
I don't know how. The only ones I see available very occasionally, and from what I've heard from other people, are the long-term fresh caught or long-term captive females. It seems like the males might be hard to come by. Don't know why. I've heard a lot of people looking for males, and I don't see them available that often.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's pretty much the opposite of most other species.
Yeah. You're
hard pressed to find a male.
Yeah, and Austin, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I understand. And like I said, you just don't. And I might just not be in the right circles, not to see them imported. That, and usually from the wild, they're scarred up too. They have a strange skin on it. It seems real fragile. It's a tough snake. I mean, it's like a bull in a china shop, but their skin scars real easily. Yeah, so they have that black skin, so it really shows up too. But all the wild caught ones are pretty scarred up, and I'm kind of curious what they're doing out there. If that's from meeting each other, or if that's from tackling wild things, or what,
right.
Who knows?
And that's consistent through like that. It never changes as they get older, or just.
Well, as far as the imports, it just seems like they all have some scars on them. So, I mean, you catch a lot of wild snakes and they're not too bad, but it just seems like the Papuans seem to be.
Yeah.
That's why I like the hatchling. He's fairly flawless, really good natured. I mean, one of the few snakes that does not shy away at my smell, which makes me feel like him even better. I can put him out and he'll crawl across my shoes where the others come up and they smell you and want to go the other way. It's just I think they're fearless. It seems to me.
They're just so big that they
yeah. It's like the big baby Huey of the snake world, except they are smart as far as a snake goes.
You find them attentive, kind of like you see a lot of large pythons seem to be more attentive. I don't know if that's us thinking of it just because they're so much closer in size to us than say little.
Yeah,
snake,
I don't know. They're stubborn. I mean, if he's going in a direction, you try to redirect him. He's, no, he always wants to crawl underneath the cages or go underneath a dresser or something like that. And every time you try to redirect, he wants to be the boss of him. So it's hard. It's funny. They're different. We're a carpet python. When I clean the carpet python cage, I can take the hide and turn it upside down and set it on the ground and set it on there. And like I said, they'll travel 1,000,000 miles and never leave that box. Yeah. They're just everywhere.
That may say something about their intelligence.
I ain't calling my baby stupid, but not the brightest, the sharpest tack in the package.
Yeah,
Oh no, go. Sorry.
Poplins are such a large, stunning animal. I just don't know why more people aren't interested in just knowing more about them or keeping them. I mean, you even see some of the hard to breed species, kept more readily than say a poplin. Seems to be a kind of forgotten animal.
I just don't think people know about them. I mean, everybody that has one said this is the most awesome snake I've ever seen. Like I said, their color's not fantastic. I mean, it's a drab green. They have fantastic iridescence, and the color change thing is pretty cool. But I think as they get older, that tends to shut down a little bit. But most people, when I post a picture of them, what is that? Yeah, what is that? It's like nobody really knows what it is. They're familiar with the Australian pythons. I think there's more media on them, so to speak.
Which is interesting because I don't think it was the last NRBC. Maybe it was 2 NRBCs ago. Like we saw like 2 or 3 poplins actually there, but like 0 olives.
Really?
And I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
I feel like people know about poplins.
They're starting.
Olives.
Well, really?
I don't know, that's just my...
Well, I can tell you why that is. Why at the show is because olives are only going to be captive born and bred. Yes. So here in Texas, well, really in the United States, there's going to be 2 people that are producing olives. Maybe there's like a stragglers, but really it's Nick Mutton and really it is Jeff Hartwig. Sorry if I fucked up your name, Jeff. But it's them 2, and then there's a few guys who have random ones on fauna and stuff. But obviously, with the availability of imports, we saw an import on a flipper's table, and it's like it's that moment where you're like, this is amazing, but you're taking that shot in the dark with that animal.
Yeah.
If you were to get another animal, what would be your plan of action? I mean, if you don't have availability of captive born and bred.
If I didn't have availability of captive born and bred, well, from a purely logical standpoint, it would be a fresh import again, a fresh baby import, less chance of parasitic infection or whatever. Long term, they're eating whatever's out there.
And it's captive hatched. You're hoping an egg came in.
Yeah. I've gone through one with the one theoretic import that had the parasite issue on the green trees, and that's a mess.
Is that enough to turn you off
from imports? No. It makes me want to research the breed or who you're getting it from.
Right.
More. I have 2 green trees from Ryan Burke at Clockwork that are spot on. Great animals. Not a problem with them. They came to me eating. They're clean. They're growing good. Absolutely nothing wrong. But I see ones that shows that I turn to my wife Missy and say that one's going to be dead in 3 weeks. I'm not kidding you. They're just that skinny and that bad looking. And I said they're going to sell this to somebody. And there's no way.
Especially green trees, right?
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
I have a kind of historical question. That's obviously for either of you. When did the naming for olive and python split? Because at one point, olives and poplins split. Like, weren't they called one thing at one point?
Olives, poplins were Lyaeus at one time, and then they split off into their own genus. But I don't know. But I've seen it on the interwebs as both. So it can't be that long ago.
That's what I thought was funny. Recently, I can't remember why, I Googled it for something. And when you Google it, it still has them, but like on the top 4 results on Google, they still had them as one thing. And I thought that was interesting because I feel like known to breeders and snake people, they're different. But it's interesting that the regular world.
And I think it's just because possibly because the research that has been done on it is so few and far between, and maybe some of that earlier research was done under that, and those papers just haven't been changed. I mean, if you take your olive and my Papuan and put them together, you right away will see that they are not near the same thing, other than coloration. I mean, their heads are totally different shapes. Right. Their pits are different. They're just a whole different animal. But
so then why were they ever together?
I think we got more information because we were able to sequence DNA. I think technology came to a point where we were able to sequence DNA and realize that they're further apart than we realized. I don't know that for sure, but there was that period where like everything shifted. I don't know if you remember. It was like all of Morelia got fucked up, and that's when green trees came in. That's when scrubs went out. That's when I guess.
And now we got the 2 different green trees. And you got the northern and southern. Yeah. And so which one you want to.
And some people don't even accept current taxonomy. Yeah. Some people just ignore it.
Taxonomy is for the convenience of people. It's made by people, and it's for the convenience of people. The animal don't care. That's one of my kind of Carpondra things. The animal don't care.
I think, I don't know, in some ways I agree with that, but then other ways, if you have keeping things associated with that taxonomy, then yeah, the animal does care. If you're going to keep it one way because it's called this, and you're going to keep it another way because it's called this, then the animal does care, right?
I personally would kind of just research where it came from myself, and look at Indonesia, look at New Guinea, and see what the temperature type of stuff there, and try to match that as close as possible.
Yeah, everyone's that smart to do that.
Well, unfortunately, most of my snakes are from that same side of the world, same area. So it helps, yeah. And for myself, that's why I don't keep a lot of different stuff. It's just too difficult to have that many different setups.
Right. I think at some point someone just said, I don't think people realize how little there is as far as patternless snakes out there, especially patternless pythons. Just so you could see how waters, olives, Papuans, they're all these random patternless snakes. Yeah. And there's not many of those out there. So they must be pretty closely related. But you see the Papuan and you say, that's not the same head.
No, but you also look at let's just take patterns, for example. Look at a bull snake and a diamondback rattlesnake. Very similar patterns, but they're nowhere near. Evolution will dictate who survives by what works the best. And if a dark green snake works best in that area, you're probably going to have a lot more dark green snakes.
Right.
It's my scientific input.
Because that matters around here.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, are they related at some point? Of course, but
maybe way back. Yeah. If that's the way you want to think about it. But yeah, like I said, the pits, I think, as far as I know, their pits are different, their heads are different. Probably the scalation is different. Maybe the internals and obviously their skulls and things are different, but they don't have any legs, so they're similar. Yeah, how far do you want to break it down?
Yeah, you can only do so much from we're just looking at our snakes, see how they act and things like that. And it seems like, we're more closely related to a chimpanzee than probably
you're more related. No.
There's more genetic, variation between genuses of snakes than there is between us and chimpanzees. And it's like, not everyone's following the same rules.
Yeah, no
one's following.
That's why I can't wrap my head around, the whole dog breed thing. I know they're all the same thing, but Great Dane and Chihuahua are very different. I can't believe there's not some genetic difference in there somehow. Right. I'm just stupid that way. So.
Yeah. If we just accept what it is, a Papuan's a Papuan, and not worry about what we call it. But I don't know. Obviously to the point where we're not mixing that's never going to be a mistake. We're never going to mix olive. There's never going to be hybrid olive popwins just because who's breeding olives, who's breeding popwins, and then who
Someone
has them at
probably
their
said
disposal.
10 years ago, there's never going to be Carpondros.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you'd probably just have a fat pop one at that point.
Yeah, you probably just have a meal for your popwin.
Like I said, that's again being a hypocrite. That's just not something that I would do. I can't answer that. I just wouldn't feel comfortable with
to
that.
me, I mean, obviously, we just acknowledge they're different, but to me, they're close enough to do it, to try. I don't know.
They're close enough to do it for sure.
Well, you could take a dark green snake and a dark green snake, and you could make a dark green snake. You know? Yeah.
I have a feeling it will come out patternless and grayish black.
Which pits would come out? What like that?
You know, and that's a good question. I don't do the Carpondros for their mannerisms so much. It is for the pattern.
Okay.
You know, it's a unique pattern and coloration. That's a good point. It's a good point. I haven't really thought about it as you know, I want something that perches more than a carpet python, but still kind of looks like it. I didn't think of it that way. I like the way that looks. You know what else? That's all I had. When and it worked. So
yeah. But I mean, that's a good point to where she said, I mean, 20 years ago, who was keeping green tree python alive?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I just want to breed green tree pythons.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh shit, we're getting decently good at this. Let's breed these carpets and these green trees together. Who knows where it goes?
I don't know. It was the choice I had, and I took it, and I like it. So I'm living with it.
I mean, once you make that choice, why does it become your thing?
Yeah.
Who else is doing it the way you're doing it specifically?
There are some people out there. I mean,
but jungles to.
I don't know about jungles. No, like I said, I've seen IJs, and I think most of them are doing IJs for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why. I like the jungle.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're just thinking the region as far as not mixing Australia with.
Yeah.
Oh, this is totally not important, but it just made me think earlier Paris was trying to goad you and say what two snakes do people say are the same. He just brought that up earlier.
Oh yeah. So
I wasn't actually saying you could talk about it.
Well, no, I think it's interesting because there's obviously varying results of a coastal to a green tree than a jungle to a green tree.
I would think. I haven't seen a coastal.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I mean, you think it's just because really all you're doing is putting cream into it. There doesn't seem to be an enhancement of color perceived from.
I have no idea. That's this isn't going well, is it?
Do it. You can do it.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's just something I love about a black and yellow snake. That when you put a green snake into it, what do you think makes some of them have that? Like some of them do poke out a little bit of green or
genetics. I don't know.
Yeah.
See, this is okay.
What are you looking for as far when?
I think it would be really
ideal.
I think it'd be real neat. I love the yellow and black. I think it'd be really neat to have one that was green and black. Mm-hmm. And I think you get that more towards the 75%.
Really?
Yeah, the green comes out a little bit more in the 75s, but you also, like I said, you get some of those steel grays and other ones. Bill had one 62.5%. Which, I mean,
that means there's got to be multiple.
It had like oranges in it and stuff like that, if I remember correctly. Really? It was really cool. Yeah.
How do you get 62?
A 50% to a 75 would do that, and there's probably other ways to do it.
But I mean, that speaks to the fact that those animals at least survive to the point where you have multiple generations.
Yeah.
Meaning, in order to get that, you have to have a 75.
One of them is a fertile. Yeah.
So you would still be. Does that put you like 6 years away from maybe?
Crap.
Maybe 8. I don't know.
He's only been at 7, right?
I do have a 75% carpet that I got from John Battaglia. It looks. It's a female. So if theoretically, if I put somebody help me with the math.
Not me.
Come on, man.
I'll type it into the chat.
If I put a green tree python to a 75% jungle, it would, I think that would be 62 and a half. If
Well, that's what you said.
wait, I got to draw my number line.
I don't know.
I don't know.
No.
Ask our people watching. I don't know.
Well, you're
I
closer
think
than
that's-
I thought, at least.
Yeah, she's young.
Mhm.
She's 2 years old, so she's got a bit to go.
Do you see any difference as far as feeding these guys, or do you just do
They're all
the exact
animals.
same?
Yeah.
I guess we should go through the way that you would breed a snake, just in general, because obviously you've only bred jungles and
Yeah.
carpets and green trees, correct?
The first time was a crapshoot.
Mhm.
I just put them together and let nature happen. And like I said, through the advice of my mentors, would know what in the carpet python book, what the ovulation was, what to look for, and stuff like that. And it was pretty textbook the first time.
Mhm.
The second time, I learned about cooling and preparing for winter. So I tried all that and got myself really confused. And I tried that, and I didn't ever witness her ovulation. And back up to the first one, the time between ovulation and shed, and then shed and laying, not textbook. It was a very short period. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a very short period of time. Second one, I did not see the ovulation, but the time between shed and laying was like 45 days, which that's a bit long. The incubation period has been within a day on the two, so I'm assuming it's going to be the same on this one. This third one was pretty much textbook as far as ovulation to shed and shed to lay in.
Mhm. You think that's just because you're better at following the formula now?
Well, this one went a lot earlier. I've had her lay once in April, once in March, and this one was in February.
Okay, sorry, this was
No
not a
worries.
smooth transition.
So the temperatures, I don't think, have been that much different.
Okay.
So I don't really know what the difference is, and
Yeah,
why
that's a changing variable.
why they've all been a month apart. So in the future, just when fall comes around, I'm going to start preparing them and putting them together and let nature take its
Which
course. That's all I
fall
can.
in Texas.
It's like January.
What is that?
Yeah, I think
we were in the 40s last week.
Yeah.
And now we're in it was burning hot.
And last year when she had off, it really didn't seem to ever get very long. So maybe it wouldn't have happened anyway.
Right? Because
I don't know. It's like I said, I'm just having fun with it. I'm not trying to get too scientific. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So far, I'm having good luck.
So backtrack a little bit. When you first got into, you saw the jungle at NRBC, like, was this always your plan?
No.
Was it like, what was, when you first bought that first one, what was your, like,
Get a snake.
You weren't thinking ahead at all. You were just like, I want a snake.
Yeah. Okay. There was no breeding. There was no,
Where are you barking at?
there was no collection plans. There was no whatever. And of course, my very patient wife, one led to another. And this is the last one, Have you ever heard that? This is the last one. Never, right?
Well, I never accepted
he
that.
never states, oh no, it's never.
The affliction happened far before she showed up. So
yeah, it's different when
that's
he
one
already
benefit.
But now I've come to the point where I know I'm space limited, and all my young ones, I'm gonna have to find space for them. So now
you can take your computer and your desk.
Well, yeah, move it to the guest room.
Move that to the guest room. Then you got a whole wall.
We need to talk.
There's possibilities.
No, birds don't have to have multiple uses like ours. Someone already. Never mind. I don't need to bring that
But
up.
I have.
Someone shit on us in the chat multiple times.
Why are you saying that?
Our bed because it made me mad.
Well, I wanted to throw it out, but Melissa wouldn't let me.
It is
throw
a
it out.
second bedroom. Oh, that's the first purpose. I'm not giving up on it.
All right, glad we got that
Glad
out
we
on
got
the
that out.
podcast. If anyone wants to stay over, we have a guest bedroom that no one's ever stayed in. It's a snake
I
room.
have friends coming in the next couple months. They will stay here. So
I'll see them when they come.
take your shit back.
So
I have 23 now, and that seems to occupy a good portion of my time. I don't know how people do 60 or 100 or 200 unless it's their full-time deal. Like I said, I I wake up and clean the poop in the morning. I come home and clean the poop before I go home. I mean, before I go to bed, and
That's enough.
and yeah, and I'll sit in my room like this and just like I said, do whatever, but enjoy being and looking at them. They're just fun to watch, even though they're not doing anything for the most part. I just like looking at them.
So how do you plan to set up hatchlings?
I have a little rack. I have 20 little racks, or two hatchling racks. Each have 10 in them. Heat tape.
Do you know what size tubs those are?
I think they're 6 quart.
Like small python baby type tubs, or
all I can do is compare it to something.
I've got odd tubs.
Yeah. They're about half they're about half the length of those and twice the width. So I think it's a 6 quart. That's another one, but made by JPM Reptilia. So they work out great. I mean, I put the little tie wrap square things in the things you secure tie wrap. It's got a sticky back on it. And it's kind of square shaped, and I stick one on each end and put a coat hanger in between. So it holds on there, and it's easy removable for cleaning or whatever. Just a paper towel on the bottom and a little water dish. That's it. Heat tape underneath.
Okay. So you're keeping them identical as far as heat goes?
Yeah.
And substrate's going to be paper towel.
Paper towels. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I've had really good luck with it. I mean, when I had the aspen, they'd spill their water on it and it would mold. I wouldn't catch it. When I had the coconut fiber, it was holding way too much moisture for those cages. It was just constantly soaking wet in there, which I know is not good. I use paper towel in the tubs, or the hatchling rack in the small cages, and that craft paper in the big cages, kind of brown paper. It's not really absorbent, but it works well.
Yeah, that setup that you had as far as the craft paper goes, you had like I don't know if you would call it like butcher type. Like, is that butcher paper?
It's called it's not perforated, but it's indented craft paper. I get that, and I got the little roller off of Amazon.
It's like a roller, but you can cut it like it has.
It's a terrible sharp edge on it, but it rips half the time. But I'm starting to get it down.
Because
I got a mark on the top on one of the cages where that's 3 feet. Unroll it, rip it. There it is.
Yeah, you had clearly a system, because it's mounted like under your.
It's not. It's just on the ground. It's just the weight of it.
It looks like it's supposed to be there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's supposed to be there.
No, I don't think you know how meticulous that is as far as you have a marking on the exact. Well, I don't think most people do.
It's not a mark. It's just between it. It's an
area. But you made a mark
mentally.
But what I'm saying is that that's a cool trick for someone who hasn't thought of that.
I just came up with it. I was just kind of pulling it out and be too long. No, it's got like I said, an edge on it that is supposed to tear it, but it doesn't do it well. Snake hasn't complained yet, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, where do you get those big rolls?
Amazon.
Yeah,
it's like $25, and the little metal holder was 30ish, maybe.
Is it hard to ship them?
Free shipping. Prime member. Yeah.
Oh shit! So it doesn't matter how big it is, because I imagine those are heavy.
That's where I get my paper towels too. The only paper towels I can find that are still actually 6 inches on the perforations are these. I think it's brawny paper towels. I get a whole case of them from Amazon for like $35.
And that's shipped free. So that's 6 inches, so it fits in the tub.
Yeah, a 2-foot cage. Whereas the store-bought paper towels, you got to fold them, or have something not covered or whatever. So they work out well.
Once again, that's more thought out than most people would. It's the exact size. You went out of your way to get the exact size.
Well, after you change so many poopy diapers, you try to make life easy.
Do you think it's possible to be a super hard earth conscious snake keeper?
As far as
I feel like y'all use so much paper products.
Paper is decomposable.
But it's still bad to use so much frequently. The big thing is people don't want you to use paper towels at all. They're like, use real napkins. Or I don't know. I'm just.
All right, we'll use rags in each one, and we'll throw them in the washer.
Yeah, is it possible to be annoyingly earth conscious and be a snake keeper?
I think that's you're going to get arguments either way. I think the paper is a renewable resource, and it is decomposable, so that's not a big deal. If you were using plastic carpet that you had to throw away every now and then, I would think that would be something else. The wood chips, they're decomposable, and a renewable resource. Coconut's a big renewable resource, but you're cutting down the rainforest for the coconut. So damn it.
But you're cutting down more.
But coconuts are happening either way. If we can use
they
husk, that's nice.
Yeah. I'd much rather use paper than a plastic product. Yeah, I'm conscious about waste, but I mean, it costs money to waste, and it costs the environment. I am environmentally conscious, but life goes on. I still drive a car.
We're trying to make Texas in the winter, Australia or Indonesia. It's really hard to be.
I think he was joking, but Evan said we should use hemp products and save the trees.
That's not a bad. I mean, if it worked, the snakes would be happy. They'd eat more. No, hemp is a renewable source. I got no problem with that. If they made some sort of thing, the whole thing is something like that. If it was disposable, great. If you have to wash it, that to me is a pain in the ass.
Right.
And even I think when we had Jason on, I think he says he washes like all his tubs. Like, I mean, probably better than us. We just dump the aspen or whatever. But like he goes through like deep cleaning, washing all the tubs and everything. Which is probably really good for the snakes, but like that's a lot of environmental stuff, and I'm sure a bunch of people do that. But
that's one thing I like about the tubs is they don't really have corners in them, because a snake will poop in a corner, and you cannot get the poop out of the corner unless you dig your fingernails into it. and they habitually they won't go in the middle of the paper towel. They always go to the edge, and they. And so that's one inconvenience. And one thing I would like to be able to do better is the cleaning. I mean, you get stains of the paper, the craft paper leaf stains in the bottom when they pee. It kind of stains the white stuff brown, that you can't get that up. So every time I take the paper towels out, I use a F10 diluted to the, I think it's 250 to 1. Whatever according to the bottle. They have a low, medium, and high dilution, and one will kill like nuclear accidents and stuff like that. I do between the low and the medium. I spray it, wipe it, put new paper towel in, and if it's effective, great. If it's not, I don't know yet.
That's
clean.
And I wash my water bowls once a week. I use ceramic water bowls, and seems to be good for me. Some people do 2 weeks. Some people, not in 2 weeks. Some people do, every few days or whatever, which is great.
Wait, am I supposed to be washing them when I clean them?
I'm just saying, half the time, I usually, honestly, I will refill them for the most of the time, and I will scrub them out only about once a month. I don't know if I'm a scumbag or.
Yeah, we just dump it and refill it.
we have a kind of hard water, and as it evaporates, it leaves kind of that white residue. And also, I don't necessarily put the same bowl back in the same cage. So I just take them all, dump them, put them all in the dishwasher so they're all sanitized, and then I just fill them and put them back wherever.
Yeah, I'm weird about the cross contamination thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I always keep everyone the same everything.
But also, we all put ours in the dishwasher. So
yeah, it's like so Apple. I don't know. It's nitpicking at that point, meaning like we all have our own things that we're worried. I don't know why.
We do. They're all in the same room. So if there's an aerosolized problem, then they're probably all going to have it. Unless you actually disinfect your hands between touching each one. I don't know how long, when you put
I do between each rack.
Yeah, but and how long that lasts. You might do it once and it lasts all day. I don't know. But unless you do that between each one or whatever the time period is, you're still risking, you're still risking contamination.
Right. I'm not saying that I'm right.
I think a totally sterile environment is not good. Just like when you're a kid, you need to eat a handful of dirt to build your immunity system, sort of thing. I don't know if all the inbreeding and some of the, which is the only choice we have in some cases, and the sterile environments might be leading to some suppressed immune systems. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not a doctor. I'm just going by what works, you know.
Well, I mean, if you take humans as example, us, we're essentially in captivity at this point. We're
Yeah.
not out there hunting for our own food.
Yeah.
And if we were out there 365 exposed to the elements, we're probably going to get sick. And we're gonna have some issues.
But like, did you play in a sandbox when you were a kid? Did you have cats? You know, sort of stuff. You know,
I got a staph
but now you have all the Clorox wipes and everything sterilized and everything, and you have all these kids with allergies and other thises and that's, and I just wonder if, you know, having your body fight off some of the little things makes it stronger in the long run.
I can tell you, even with all the Clorox, they're still gross. I still have kids who eat food off the floor and put wood chips in their mouth. And like, it's I don't, the Clorox.
She had a kid drop his gum accidentally in the toilet while he was peeing, and then took it out and put it back in his mouth.
Nice.
So that's what you're working with.
Still had flavor. 5-second rule work for toilets too, huh?
So it's kind of, you know, I think about it probably more often than you would think, like, because, you know, you go herping or something, you lift up a rock, and it's like this scummy, moist environment with all these nasty.
It's got spider webs and mold and grass and rat turds and all that kind of shit.
Right, and these snakes are always under there.
Yep.
You know?
Having a good time.
So it's like, but we feel that we need to keep them on paper. As soon as it gets soiled, let's take that out.
Yeah.
And let's.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird. I don't know why we do that. It seems to work for us. But...
It does, and it's. I mean, of course, in an enclosed environment, you probably don't want whatever fumes from their urates and stuff like that building up in there. But is the way we keep them leading towards the RIs and stuff like that, you know, the depressed immune systems, or are we helping it? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Something for somebody smarter than me to figure out.
I don't know how many snakes anyone comes across and have an RI or anything, or if you would even have them long enough to know.
Yeah, well, I got one that's had one for a while. He's in a different room, and he's on the Fortaz and seeing what's going to happen with it. And, you know, doing what I can for him, but see what happens. And it's just weird.
What do you feel personally about medicating an animal versus kind of waiting it out? What's your first step when you see a symptom, and what is the symptom?
Up till this one, first thing was the vet visit and get him medicated. And it gets expensive because a culture to find out which medication will work is more expensive than just the basic vet visit and medication. You know, it's like $200 for a culture and $100 for the vet visit. So I've done that, and it's worked rather well. This one I kind of wanted to see what happened, just to see if, you know, we get over colds by ourselves. So I kind of just wanted to see what would happen, and so far it's not getting better. So I decided to go ahead and.
Is it getting worse?
It's not getting well. It's hard to tell. I mean, they do the wheezing thing, and the lips stick together, and, you know, they don't flick their tongue out. Not blowing any bubbles, which is a little bit weird to me, but the sticky stuff on the lips. So I soak him in a water with a little betadine in it, and then I got these little toothbrush things that I dip in betadine and rub around his gums because it gets the mucus build up in there. Mm-hmm. And I started him on antibiotics, so we'll see how that goes. It might just be something and I had him tested for NIDO. He doesn't have it. At least the first test came back negative, so knock on wood. So I don't think that's an issue. I think he's just got a bacteria in there that's not agreeing with him, and he can't fight it on his own. I put him in. I've had suggestions, you know, put him in the cage with 90 degree, you know, up the heat to 90 degrees, and it just wouldn't keep it at that. Until just recently now, it's starting to keep it there, and right. I think the antibiotics are kicking in. I think
it's a separate room that may not be as warm.
It's not. No, the warmth from the other cages is amazing.
Right.
Yeah. There's a huge difference than when you just have one. So we'll see how that goes.
So you don't mind going out there doing vet visit and giving them medication? And
No. I mean, like I said, these are my pets, and I care for them. you know, there's some experimentation value to it that I want to see if this works, but I can only carry that so far before. And the other
you also
one,
don't want a dead animal.
absolutely. And so far, knock on wood, I haven't had one. So
Right.
I'm 6 years in and haven't had one. I know that will change.
Right.
It's just a fact of life. But I've been very lucky so far. I mean, I've had hatchlings that, you know,
Right. Yeah. I don't think people
barely made out of the
understand.
egg. Yeah.
Because she was very sad because we had hatchlings, and I mean, especially corns, I guess, are very, very fragile when they first come out.
Yeah.
And either
fragile devils.
they don't take as far as food goes. Most of ours do okay with food, or there's kinks, or you know, just for whatever reason, you can't tell on the outside, but on the inside, obviously something's awry.
Yeah. I had one that came out of the egg, but our theory is that when he came out, he must have grabbed his yolk, still had a yolk sac, and I don't know if he yanked it or whatever, but you know, 10 minutes later we went in and he was keeled over. Had one that was a twin in the egg that just didn't separate. It was a monster.
You guys conjoined twin?
Yeah, it was pretty nasty looking. Brain was on the outside and stuff. So it's in the freezer as a abnormality thing. Freezer burn. But most of them just don't. Let me think. I think those are the only two that went full term. You know, it seems to me that the others went, and if they went full term, they hatched and were okay, or the egg just stopped developing or rotted or whatever. You know.
Hey, Bill's on.
Hey, Bill.
So that's
well, show's over.
Yeah.
I didn't need to. But it's funny because his name has come up in this podcast like 3
but
times.
Also, he changed his thing on YouTube. Used to be William Stiegel, but now he's back to Bill.
Oh, okay.
Back to everyday Bill Stiegel.
Yeah,
yeah, because I used to be, who's William Stiegel? There's Bill.
Okay. Great.
But let's yeah, that's the whole story. Let's talk more about.
Wait, but now I have questions. I want to ask Bill's about stuff we've talked about. Like his,
absolutely.
Do that. He's not here.
We need a fact checker, please. Fact check, Bill.
The stuff we talked about, like with the, because you brought up, you said, oh, no, I can't remember, something he has, and you're talking about the 75%. Or were we talking about that?
Oh, the 62.5.
Yes. How did he get the 62.5? Which you said, but I don't know. He's here now.
How to get a
we were curious if it was a 75% carpet to a green tree or some other combination.
Right.
Okay, there we go.
There you
go. You can answer that. Okay,
but it doesn't seem like you have any higher rate of that kind of stuff with Carpondras than you would.
I don't think so. I've never done a carpet clutch, but from what I understand, my mortality rate doesn't seem to be any different than that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm happy.
That goes the same with, I mean, health. You said you've had 6 years without issues.
Yeah. And I haven't had too many slugs either. You know, the actual fertilized egg rate has been, I mean, slugs are just a given that they're not included in the batch. Right. But then you have, in this clutch, I had 2 that were fully formed eggs, but they didn't have any veins in them. I don't know what that's called. If it's just unfertilized or what, but it's just like yellow fluid in there. And so I know those aren't going to put a big X on them because I know they're starting to shrivel up. I'm at 4 weeks.
To wait it out?
Yeah, I'm going to. Somebody asked me. I said, as long as they don't stink, they stay. You know, even if they get moldy, that doesn't seem to bother me. The one, like I said, it had to have a perforation in it or something because it smelled dead, and it had to be removed or we weren't going to be happy.
Yeah. So when you're taking these clutches, are you you break them apart, or are you trying to leave the pile intact?
This time I left the pile intact because she laid them while I was at work, and they were already pretty well stuck together.
Super stuck.
Yeah, the first one was the same way. The second one, I actually watched her lay the eggs, so I could. She was done. I took them out, and I could mark them, and you can separate them. It's just you also, I guess, have the risk of tearing one. Jason Miller gave me a good technique of using dental floss and kind of using it. I don't. It's handy for that you can see each one, and if you want to number each one, and when it hatches, or if they're all separated, but if it's all in a clutch, it looks really cool. and my probe goes right down in the middle of it, and it, that is the temperature of the clutch. It's
Right. As best as you can.
best as I can, as accurate as my thermostat is.
Right.
Which is it's a wet stick. I don't know.
Okay, so the question we had earlier: what would a green tree to a 75% jungle make? Bill said it'd be 75% jungle, 25% green tree.
Wait.
But if it's a 75% jungle, that means so there has to be something else. It can't just be
Yeah.
75, 25.
It's a
Oh, so Bill's saying that 88%. So going a step further, 88% G2P has never been produced. So
hit it, Bill.
you gonna have Bill do that one, or are you gonna take that one?
I got 6-7 years to go on that one, probably.
So I mean, Bill's clearly a green tree guy.
Oh yeah, well, he's an everything guy.
Are you more of a carpet side guy, or are you more making your life easier with the?
Make my life easier. I don't know where that's going.
I like that if you go higher the green tree, the more difficulty perceived, in my opinion.
Oh, I'm if I live long enough, I'm going to try it. Like I said, this year, theoretically, if my 50-50 is old enough or big enough, I know she's old enough. If she's big enough, I'm going to try to put her dad back to her to make a 75.
Right.
My feeling is the fertility rates and the outcome is not as good as the 50-50s will be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I feel that way, but I do. I hope it isn't. But and then we'll see where that goes from there.
Mm-hmm.
Total speculation question. Do you think putting it back to her dad gives you a greater chance than putting her to?
I know that his swimmers are viable. And I don't have another male that will be old enough.
And do you think the fact that they are relatives, do you think that doesn't?
I would act personally. I don't know if I'm understanding correctly. Personally, I'd rather introduce different blood to it.
Okay.
But I'd rather if I know he's proven and she is not, then if I put two fresh snakes together, I wouldn't know which one was not working.
Right.
So if they do produce viable eggs, then I know that she's good, and maybe next time I can try another different male to check, see if everything works.
Will that hinder your process as far as, because obviously you don't want to put two together to where you'll go willy-nilly for years on end trying to figure out if the male's the issue, the female's the issue.
Yeah, well, all my males, I have some that are going to be just pets or be sold off because some of them I just don't want to breed. I have a few that I do want to, and again, that's might be why I try the 75 carpet, just to make sure this male has viable sperm. And do what you will with that. Then I can use him for whatever, later on. I really haven't figured out what, maybe a male 50-50 to 75. I don't know. I don't know. There are so many possibilities.
I mean, at some point you're just doing what works, right?
And what I have the option to do.
Right.
With what I have.
Right.
Yeah.
How long do you feel comfortable with running your female jungle?
Until she don't want to do it no more.
Is the sign when she just the clutches start getting smaller,
I guess, or unhealthy, or if she's declining, but like she's only 6,
right?
Maybe 6 or 7. So she's,
and obviously,
I've heard they can live 20, maybe
already?
Yeah, maybe
that's crazy.
20 years or something. So I would assume she has at least a couple more in her.
You got 20 more years of
do I?
more years of breeding her.
Do I have 20 more years? I hope so.
No, of breeding her. Do you have that in you? 14 more years of breeding her.
I don't know. I play by ear. I'll judge her on her own condition and whether I feel it's right or not.
How do you feel the market is for Carpondros? How do you plan to sell them in the future?
I just put a Facebook ad on my page. And a lot of tire kickers, a lot of serious people. I haven't had problems getting rid of them. It's usually within a week or two that I get interest in them. So I haven't had to hold on to any that I want to sell for any period of time. It's hard to sell them because I like them all. And again, we talked about I want them to go to somebody who I know will want to, keep them and care for them, and not just a novelty thing.
Right. So what would be your process to kind of weed people out?
I don't know. I have a hard time judging people. I try to develop some kind of friendship with the people,
right.
Just to get to know them and through recommendations and stuff. And I think everybody you do a lot of messaging before you sell one of these because they're not really cheap. And so you kind of get to know who's what.
I know some people, not a hard, fast rule, but they kind of have a rule like some snakes they would never sell to a first-time keeper. Would you sell a Carpondro to a first-time keeper?
I can't say no. I'd have to. Every situation is different. If it's a good, responsible person that seem to have their shit together, I don't see why not. Right. There's a lot of experienced people that ask about them, so I don't know if that means they're just curious or they're interested. But I tried to not get people too interested until I know what's there, because you don't count the chickens before they're hatched.
Yeah, you're not starting.
and then establish, because like my first clutch, that I had so many that wouldn't eat off the bat, so I like to get at least 5 meals in them and make sure they're good and solid before they go to anybody. So
you don't really have any issues selling them, but it's so hard to know who's in it for the real long haul or who's.
Yep.
You get people right off the bat who you put something up and they're like, would you take this? And then it's like, well, if you don't really want to talk to me about the animal in the beginning, like if you don't want to form some kind of friendship around frickin' this animal that I spent so much time producing, that's why I end up with racks of baby corn snakes that are $20.
I tend to end up making better deals with people that are friends, so it would behoove you to be my friend before you bought one.
No, because you would rather let it go for less and know that you're good to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for somebody who just wanted to flip one, I can't see paying the price for it, and then you can't really charge more for it. So what's the advantage in that?
Right.
I'm more worried generally about being scammed.
Yeah.
Backing out of the payment or you ship it. I hear so many war stories that thank goodness I haven't had to experience yet, but my day will come.
Well, I think you weed out a lot of the bullshit per se once you get to a higher dollar animal. And we haven't mentioned what's the price range for these animals?
Mine, I've started at $800 unsexed.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I was really expecting. We're friends. I'll give you 400. I honestly, because I have no level of knowledge on the price of it, because I always said that I would never buy one, right? So it's like, obviously a very, very nice jungle is going to be about 400. A
very, very nice
chondro, maybe 1,000. So
or more. Designers are even,
of course,
quite a bit more.
So I just wonder, because
that's another good thing about it. You have to want one.
Right. Because I thought that there weren't enough people who were really looking for them, but they look obviously great.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know the market was big enough to sell them for that much.
There's not that many out there.
That's exactly what Brandon just said. He was like, I thought Carpondros would be more like 400 to 500, and the demand must be higher than we realized. But I guess if the supply's that low,
and if more people start producing them, that might come down. It is the supply and demand thing. It's a lot of work that goes into breeding any snake,
right?
Especially we only got 2 to breed.
Well, it's cool that you can occupy this space with only 2 animals to breed, right?
Yeah.
Like you can be a player in this game with just 2 animals.
Well, these 2 animals have got me into this. I wouldn't have, all the extra ones that I have.
That's
and
just snakes in general.
The snakes in general and the caging. Basically my first 2 years have helped pay for that. you know, getting into it. If I didn't produce those 2 clutches, I'd still just have 2 or 3 snakes probably.
Yeah, that's why I don't have like a lot of display cages and stuff, is because I have all males and I don't make any money.
Yeah.
It's a fucking
Yeah,
issue.
wow.
We like our $15 Sterling tubs from Target.
Well, they work great though. Like I said, they're easy to. I got no problem with tubs whatsoever.
Uh-huh.
It's just not what I did.
Yeah.
I'd seriously like to sit in the room and look at them, and it's kind of hard to look through the side of a tub and see them, but you know, it's corny.
Well, I mean, also you like to offer them both options as far as terrestrial and purchase and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, I mean, once you get to the adult size, the CB70 isn't going to work as far as, you know, these Sterlite tubs are strictly made for terrestrial snakes unless you get those.
Well, and you have some bitey snakes, right? Yeah.
Yes.
This is just a theory that I just made up, that the coming when you have tub snakes and you have to come in at them from the top, you're always a threat. You know, if you can swing a door down and come at them from underneath, you're not, you possibly are not being perceived as a threat and might have less issues. So none of mine are really that bad. I mean, I have one that can't really distinguish me from food, but that's not a aggressive. It's not an aggressive defensive thing. It's just I'm stupid and hungry.
That's slightly derogatory. Tub snakes. We just have tub snakes. Tony has cage snakes. We have these nasty tub snakes.
I mean, it's a theory. Who knows?
I don't have a problem. That's just a theory on handleability.
Also, I mean, there's more visibility. The snake to you, maybe they're more accustomed to your presence.
If I don't know if they're smart enough to recognize, I don't know. But like I said, like a goldfish, if you pop one lock, they're all there at the corner, ready to be fed.
I have a question that you may have asked earlier, but yeah. What do you notice about their roaming nature, I guess? Because like if you're looking right now, like our jungles,
it's nice.
They move all the time, but our green tree
males.
Our green tree is a ball python, considering the fact that it's
hard. It's hard to catch them. I mean, nighttime, they're moving a lot. My big male green tree python, I very seldom see him out. Sometimes I'll come in at an odd hour in the night and he'll be down drinking or around or whatever, but usually it's just to drink or poop or whatever. Green trees are weird that way.
So that you think characteristic passed on to the Carpentras from, that carried through from the green trees rather than, do you understand what I'm saying?
I think the Carpentras are quite mobile at night.
Okay.
Yeah, they're moving around a lot.
Because I mean, if you see, I think our green trees move around more than we know.
More than you know. Just happens to be when you're not moving. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, there's been someone said it. Someone was real dickish on my video about putting, because I thought about doing the water bowl on the perch type thing for the green trees. Someone was like, "You think they have water bowls on their perches in the wild?"
Actually, they do.
Is that their accent?
They're also not. I imagine him now. I imagine he's from North Georgia, and no, I don't fucking know. But I mean, I understand. We shouldn't baby our snakes, but do you see any validity in the water bowl situation? Where you put your water bowl, what goes on?
What works for you works for you. I put mine on the ground.
Yeah,
and I haven't had a problem yet. And I visibly see them stretching down. It's at odd hours of the night. If I'm in there, it's not during the normal times. I'll see them down there drinking occasionally. One of them, it's probably 2 years before I saw her drink, but obviously she's not dead. She seems hydrated. She's good skin and everything. And also, I think it helps to soak. If you warm your prey in water or whatever, they're getting some hydration that way.
Right. I mean, I try to, and this is just a weird thing, I keep my rodents wet and stuff when I defrost them. You do the same?
Occasionally. Right. I mean, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I mean, I know the Carpentras, they all drink. I see them do it all the time. The Pop one, he yeah, he's a camel.
Yeah.
But the green trees, like I said, just body condition and everything, they just don't seem dehydrated. They're shedding good and everything, so I don't worry about it. I put the water bowl in. I put them under where they usually perch, so it's 6-8 inches away. Now I have one 24-inch tall cage, and he has to come down like 3 perch levels. But I've seen him stretch across a 3-foot cage to get a drink before, just to not mess with mama.
Yeah.
That was funny. It was a funny picture, but
Yeah, I think it's we don't give them enough credit for I mean, I want my animals to hunt also at the same time. Like I don't mind them roaming around, because I mean those are males, whether they're looking for food, whether they're looking for mates.
Yeah.
Constantly moving. Like day and night, like they are just they're constantly.
Well, I want to take care of all my critters, but I also have that whole survival of the fittest thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're too stupid to drink water, then
The diamond was just drinking right now, and I
Cool.
just thought that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're too stupid to drink, then either I'm doing something wrong or you're too stupid to drink. So one of us has to figure out what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you keep any? I guess we should ask while we're on the green, because obviously you keep green trees if you're going to do Carpondra. So are you doing any special considerations, obviously, between Carpondras and green trees? What's the difference between feeding, size, frequency, anything?
My green trees, I've gone solely to mice. I've heard, I don't have experience with this, but I've heard the rat hair is a little bit more hard for them to digest. And even these 540 grams, I think, he'll eat it's a jumbo mouse, which is an adult mouse that's fat, I think. And I'm questioning that, whether that is actually a big mouse or it's a fat mouse. I don't want to feed him a fat mouse.
Well, yeah, you buy those jumbo mice and they're just retired females. Maybe that's a degraded food source.
I don't know, but it seems to be good for him, but it's, my general rule of thumb is I like to feed about 10% of the body weight every 2 weeks. In the green trees, I'm trying to stick real adamant to the 2-week thing. So
that's not even body structure. That's literally by weight.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I don't know why I came up with that. It just seemed logical. There's some,
but it seems so specific.
Well, it's no more specific than 20. 20 just seems like a lot. I mean, when you have a 25-gram baby and you're feeding a 5-gram rat pink, anything more than that just seemed like it was too much.
Right.
And that's just because rat pinks are 20%.
But
yeah, some guy I was listening to Eric Burke today, and he was saying he feeds not Eric, but his guest was saying 20 to 30% less frequently. And all right, I don't mind giving that a try either.
I think we're starting to find the fact that you can do large meals less frequently, small meals more frequently. You can do heavy feeding in the summer, feeding in the winter. Like you can mix shit up,
there's no pattern. I mean, you find something you fall into, but logically, the less it costs you to do it, the more beneficial. So feeding one larger feeder every 2 weeks instead of 2 small ones every 1 week, or every 2 weeks or every 1 week, it's more cost efficient too.
Right.
So, and that does boil into it. I'll spend what it takes to keep them going. Right. you actually want to see it break even at the end anyway.
Yeah, that's what sucks with colubrids is you always go 2 pinkies before you go a fuzzy. So it's like you spend more because you go multiple food items before you go larger food items, because they'll regurge on the drop of a hat.
Really?
When it goes too big. So
yeah.
Like the body size and stuff, a python we're used to doing, at least most people do, the size of the body around is the size of the mouse.
Yeah, they're actually saying twice the size. Some
really?
Twice the size of the body. I like to see a little lump. I like to be able to tell that they've eaten something,
especially on carpets and stuff like that. Though.
Yeah, and like I said, I might be doing it wrong. I don't know, but I've been successful for 6 years. Right. So, okie doke.
Well, Tony, I want to thank you for being on.
Been my pleasure.
I think it's a real interesting and particular thing that you do, as far as
heathen.
As far as whether people like it, hate it, indifferent, it doesn't matter. It's it's something that is
Dixie doesn't like it.
Yeah.
She started growling.
it's something that is different from the status quo, and then also the fact that you are very particular about the way you're doing it, and you act like you don't have all this information and scientific right out the
I'm winging it. I'm winging it.
You're
Yeah,
a
but-
very good wing. Your winging it is very
I have
precise.
I have good mentors. I have good
Well,
mentors.
you keep track of what you do is what
Yeah.
like you seem to, some people do different things but don't really track the results or don't really track exactly what they're doing.
I track their feeding and their shedding, and for Layla, her ovulation, shed, and oviposition, and then I track all the hatch data whenever they, how many days, that kind of stuff, and temperature. But
Right.
yeah,
But it's
that's what I-
awesome because we're able to get that information out there for people. Like you said, there's not many carpondros out there.
Yeah, and I'm free for information. People ask me questions all the time. I
So-
don't mind talking to people.
Where can they reach you?
Selective Scales on Facebook and Instagram. I don't have a website, but that's where I'm at.
That's just as good as having a website these days. And,
Yeah.
and his posts are awesome, and they have great captions and hilarious captions
Thank you.
and great dad jokes throughout each one. So check him out on Facebook, Instagram, and what do you have to say about us?
Check us out because obviously, if you're listening to us, you already found us. But Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Oh shit!
Okay, let's not jam on that keyboard.
I don't know what I just
All right.
did to the computer.
Into the mainframe.
I don't know. But
We're backwards now.
thank you guys for listening. Thank you for all your questions. Tony, thank you. I
welcome.
think you have a very different and interesting story. And so it's nice to hear all the different ways people got into snakes. And I think it's cool that you just found one at a show and then this is where you are
Yes.
now. Like, that's just a big difference. And I think it's interesting and different.
You're supposed to say Portsea
I already said check us out on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Portsea buy our t-shirts.
I forgot that you could subscribe to podcasts, so that would be sweet. If you're listening this far, you're probably already
On SoundCloud you can subscribe
or on iTunes, Stitcher,
Oh.
wherever you get the podcast.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you could do
So
that.
I didn't realize that people may be listening and not subscribing. So that's why I'm
Subscribe.
saying that now.
Hit that notification bell.
Yeah, do whatever the hell you want, really. But every Monday.
Every Monday.
So-
We still haven't changed. No, it is March.
oh, you were gonna say who we have next
Yes.
week?
But next week will be April.
Remember his name.
Justin Kabelka is next week.
So who we have next week is Justin Kabelka. You probably know who he is, which is going to be different because obviously we don't do much ball python stuff. So people who are into that will be for you. We'll probably delve a lot into the business stuff, and it won't be like how to breed ball pythons because pretty sure the dog can breed ball pythons. Sorry, ball python people, love y'all. Have a great night. Later, guys.
Okay, I don't know how to stop it. Because I don't know
no.
what I did.
Where's the mouse, dude?
What? I don't know how to get out of it.
Oh no. Oh fuck.
I don't
What the
know.
hell?
I don't
There's
know
no
what I
bar.
did.
Are people still listening?
Yes, I don't know how to stop it because I pressed something.
Holy shit.
Ready? We're just gonna press random thing.
Oh no. That white screen doesn't look great.
See, one of them
All right, thanks guys. We'll cut this out.